My name is Hondo Underwood. I stole cars valued at over $1 million. Some were stolen to order, some went to chop shops. This is how crime works. I've probably stole 200 to 300 vehicles. To me, once I got proficient at stealing, there was no time of day that was safe. I would be even fine with stealing a vehicle while you're sitting on your couch. I've put a lot of people in harm's way. Not just myself, not just the other people that were on the road, but also the police officers that were involved in chasing me and pursuing me. As a Marine or a former Marine, I'm always aware of my surroundings, no matter what, even to this day. But when you mix former military, attention detail, and drugs, it enhances that even more, especially when you're in a stolen vehicle and running from the police. There's been high-speed chases that I've been in 5-6 times in a day that range anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. The police officers that were telling me were not just regular uniformed police officers. It was a CMAT team. It was the Auto Theft Task Force out of Denver, Lakewood, Jefferson County. And at that point in time in 2017, police officers were going through this, phase where they're not supposed to pursue high-speed, getaways. There was times where I would taunt the police. I'd see them, and they were just waiting for me to make that move. There was times where I'd wave at them. There was times where I'd flip them off. There was times that I'd just drive by and smile because I knew they weren't going to do nothing. And when they did, they knew I was getting away. It was definitely an experience where it went from nervousness to, okay, let's have fun. It was a rough game of cat and mouse. There were times that I was in a stolen vehicle and I pulled a gun on an undercover cop. And I didn't realize it was an undercover cop until he reached for his radio. Maybe 2-3 weeks later, I was apprehended by 32 police officers. I stole cars between 2016 and I was apprehended in 2017. During the first time, I was selling drugs and I started using them as well. The first vehicle that I ever stole was an older model Suburban. The ignitions are very easy to disable and start the vehicle. Essentially, it was in a parking lot where it was low lit and plenty of vehicles around, so it was kind of undercover. I felt a sense of rush, like an adrenaline rush. Well, I'm like, well, what do we do next? Where's the next one? It was almost an addiction to doing it. From there, it moved on from a Suburban to Dodge Rams, F-350s, Cadillac Escalades, and reason being is they were all very similar in a sense of design and security. In the beginning, I had a fascination with keys. I was using jiggler keys to start the ignitions. I could take any kind of key, and if it was shaved down correctly, I can open up any kind of padlock, vehicle locks, but it was pretty much the luck of the draw whether or not it was going to work. So after that, I discarded the keys and found other ways that were guaranteed 100% of the time to be able to start and drive off. So then I got into flatheads and vice grips. Flathead was able to open the vehicle just like a jiggler key, break off glow rings, they're called, on the vehicles where the ignition is at, and put a set of vice grips around them and just pretty much turn them forward and use the flatheads to then start the vehicle. In the beginning, to steal a vehicle, it was anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes. During that time, I used a lookout and a getaway car. It got down to 6 to 7 seconds that I was stealing a vehicle. I'd try to keep my personal baggage at a minimum, just because if I had to jump out of a vehicle, the chances of leaving things behind were greater. But there were a lot of times I had anywhere from handguns to shotguns to fully automatic weapons. There was a time where I remember pulling up to a house. The vehicle was parked across the street. There was a family sitting in their living room, and with the blinds open, you can see them sitting there watching TV. I started the truck, and as I was driving off, I remember them looking out. What was going through their mind? What was going through my mind? I don't believe that car theft is a victimless crime. When you steal somebody's car, you're also stealing their ways to work. to get food for their children. You never know the circumstances somebody's in. And when you're high, when you're on drugs, you don't care about that. You don't care about yourself, let alone anybody else. The organizations that I worked for had a lot of power and a lot of money, almost unlimited. When I first started interacting with them, it was because I was selling drugs. It was a slow, progressive relationship. I never really asked questions as to what the vehicles were going to be then used for. To me, it was just the money. If it was more of a smaller vehicle, I'd make anywhere from $200 to $500. If it was a bigger vehicle and I knew, especially if they gave me details of something they had in mind, and I knew what money they can be making, that price goes up. I can make anywhere from, on a bigger vehicle, $1,000 to $10,000. To get 5-10 vehicles at $5,000 a piece in 6 seconds each, I can make $50,000 in under an hour. Some of the vehicles that I have stolen went to El Paso. Texas is known for cartel-related crimes and thefts. There were vehicles that I know that went across the border to Mexico. A lot of SUVs, bigger Suburbans and stuff like that were used to either package and transport drugs or guns or money. Taking cars out of state was risky because I'm getting into territory where I don't know the roads, but it was something that I would do if the money was right. There were times that I was accompanied because if I had somebody who wanted 15 vehicles out of state, I'm going to need 14 other drivers. And I'm also going to need a ride back. The people that I would sell to on the streets were using them for crimes or just to get around. The bigger F-350s, Escalades, Excursions, Tahoes are more on demand because they're work vehicles. They can haul a bigger load, whether it be drugs or stolen merchandise, and there's so many of them made. So they're not easily spotted if it's stolen. They're all built the same. You could interchange the parts. They're fast vehicles, they're big vehicles, especially once you get into the F-350s, the Super Duties, the turbo diesels. A lot of times I took into account that the bigger the vehicle, the cops won't stop. The cops won't hit it. Smaller cars were not something I'd steal on a regular. I would stay away from vehicles that were chipped or vehicles that had OnStar, for the simple fact is that they can be traced, and I wasn't one to be into computer programs. To me, that was too much time, too much effort, and you have to commit one crime to commit a crime of auto theft for that vehicle. I've taken a few vehicles to chop shops to be disassembled and parts to be spread out, whether it be cosmetic or internal as far as motors and engines, tires, rims, things like that. A vehicle that goes to a chop shop can pretty much be completely 100% disassembled, just like if it was in the factory. A chop shop visually is no different than a regular mechanic shop or the mechanic shop at a dealership. The first time I went to a chop shop, I had no idea that it was a chop shop. Most chop shops are legal businesses. It's easier to get away with by having a legit business than it is to have just a hole-in-the-wall shop. To strip out one kind of vehicle can take a chop shop anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, depending on the parts that they wanted and what they were able to do with the manpower. The person stealing the vehicle gets paid the least amount, because when you take time to part anything out, you get paid a lot more. If you're selling piece by piece, you're getting paid $100 here, $1,000 there, $2,000 here. The most valuable parts is the engine for one. Rims, tires, suspension, surround sound systems. A new thing that people do is cloning vehicles. you have a vehicle that's 100% legit and another vehicle that's cloned to match the appearance and your make, model, and they have VIN printers that you can duplicate that VIN. So now you have two vehicles that are actually one. Even if it's stolen, they won't know unless they really search for it. When I grew up playing Grand Theft Auto, to me, it was like, wow, you can do anything and everything you want. So much adrenaline, running from cops, shooting at people. Grand Theft Auto was more of a violent experience. I tried to never have contact with owners or people. I never liked to steal cars with keys that were already inside of them or that were already running. Not only because I didn't want to have that violence with somebody that was undeserving of it, but I also didn't want to be spotted and pointed out by police officers or, told on. To me, the video game should have never been created. It does show a lot to kids as to what you can really do in real life. Gone in 60 Seconds was a neat movie, but it's not common for somebody to buy a vehicle that stands out, that's already stolen. It's going to be recovered. I would stay away from vehicles that were more expensive. The more expensive vehicles carried the higher crime. If you got caught for it, longer prison sentence. I personally did have a small team, but I like to do it on my own. I like to be the all-star. I like to be the star of the movie. When you start putting out action movies like that, you also get people curious as to how it's done. So I hate to use the term, but it's going on everywhere. The Kia boys. Kias have been known to be very good, reliable vehicles. They're nice. But again, I think if I was to steal a Kia, what would I do with it? They're small. They may be kind of sporty, kind of fast. But personally, I couldn't do anything other than take the rims off of it. So when I think about this Kia boy trend, to me it's ridiculous. It's a bunch of people joyriding. They're not making money. All they're doing is causing damage and destroying lives. I grew up in a single home with my mother. Gangs became a part of my life when I met my dad. He lived in a pretty bad neighborhood, or a rough neighborhood, where gangs were everywhere. Maybe not so much gangs, but gangsters or thugs. And that's what I pulled myself to, because they were older, because I felt a sense of guidance. Once I graduated high school, I joined the military. December 3rd, 2007, I joined boot camp. It was amazing. I was like, wow, I finally did something with myself. But was it really my dreams to be a Marine? It never was. So I got out of the military, honorable discharge. I pursued music. I'd go around touring, show to show, state to state, city to city. I had this feeling of a climax, so to say, because there were fans that looked up to us, that idolized us. Then in 2014, I was shot 3 times in Las Vegas. When I got out of the tour bus, I went to get into a personal vehicle, and there was a drive-by that occurred, and they shot me 3 times. And again, I felt a sense of purpose, and then again, it was stripped from me. It was taken in one night. So I reverted back to that old way that I had from a kid, the power, the respect. So the neighborhood that I was in, everybody was close-knit. Everybody knew everybody. We knew the vehicles that were coming in and out. We knew the vehicles that were supposed to be there, that weren't supposed to be there. So it was very secure for me and very easy for me to get in and out or get away when a cop is coming in. Denver is very known for drug abuse. Also homelessness. A lot of people nowadays are using vehicles to get high in, to supply a high. It's not money induced, it's drug induced. Homelessness is rough when it becomes winter. Car theft goes up when it's winter because people have nowhere to stay. nowhere to sleep. They're sleeping on the streets. So when you think about car theft in the winter or in Denver, you also have to think about survival. Because if you don't have shelter, if you don't have money, a means of transportation, you don't have anything. You might even die out there. And homelessness has went up significantly in Denver, especially downtown Denver. In the particular instance that I pulled a gun on the cop, I was driving down a street and I noticed a vehicle following me. I made an illegal left-hand turn. I made my first right and I turned around right away. The first vehicle that came down that street was the vehicle that I seen tailing me. So at that point I jumped out and I was like throwing my hands up, what's going on, what's up? When I reached out and pulled my gun out, I realized that it was an unmarked police officer that was in a pickup truck. When he reached for his radio is when I knew that it was a cop. That's when I took off. The day that I was arrested, I had a friend in a stolen vehicle, the 2002 Dodge Ram Cummins diesel. Pretty fast truck. Had the truck probably 3-4 months. During that time, I was involved in a lot of high-speed chases. I was going northbound on a street in Denver called Sheridan. I started seeing 2 vehicles swerving in and out of lanes following me. So just to make it clear, I made a right and then I pulled down an alley, made a left. Look over at my friend and they're like, "What are you doing?" Said, "I'm being followed. You're tripping. You're just high or something." And I feel like, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I am just tripping. So I turn around and I end up going to a storage unit. As I'm sitting there waiting, I put my feet up in the door jamb, put my hands behind my head and lay my head back. I maybe fell asleep for like 2 to 5 minutes. And then I woke up and I was completely surrounded. I was hit from the front and back by police officers. To me, felt like an army. There was police officers everywhere. They had their guns drawn on me. They took me to the station. They asked me, where'd you get the vehicle? And I lied, I got it from this person. I borrowed it from that person. They knew it was BS. And they knew that they were going to get a conviction off of me. From there, they took me to jail. I have felonies for aggravated motor vehicle theft, and I also have a felony for vehicular eluding, which is running from the police in a stolen vehicle. I was able to help the Veterans Unit begin being started in Jefferson County Jail. I feel being a veteran is what saved me from everything. It wasn't just ran by regular deputies. It was also ran by veteran deputies. No one will ever know the bond that a veteran has, even if they've never met. We did different programs. We did healthy relationships, different kind of counseling, better parenting, recovery, stuff like that. During that time, I set it up to where I met with the auto theft team and I pretty much told them how I stole the vehicles, what vehicles I stole, kind of, I guess, in a sense, giving back a portion of what I've taken. Because ultimately my main goal is to get the word out to the public that you can protect yourself and your belongings, but I can be here to help educate you in doing so. I got a 12 to 18 year deferred sentence as long as I was able to accomplish Veterans Treatment Court, which is intense supervised probation. It's for 2 years, different phases. It's 4 phases. If I was not able to complete that successfully, they would dismiss the suspension of that and then send me to DOC for the remaining time. During my time in Veteran Treatment Court, I was placed into Harbor Lights rehab facility. If I wasn't a veteran getting released from jail, I would have had to go back to a neighborhood. The VA is the one that I leaned on to pay for the rehab facility, versus other people were relying on insurances. I had to take different courses as far as toxic masculinity, something that I was very aware of that I had, being this big, bad macho man gangster from the streets, especially a man that has had no to little guidance in life. I cut ties pretty much with all my family members, so I had no support other than the people that I was around. With the VA, they gave me that. So if I wasn't a veteran, I'd probably be dead or in jail to this day. The things that make a car or vehicle more attractive to steal, for one, is security. If there's no anti-theft device as far as like a car alarm, if you have bags or personal belongings in plain sight, that's another reason to steal it. If you upgrade your vehicle with rims or sound systems and your car's flashy, it's reasons to steal that vehicle. My advice for drivers, for one, don't be complacent. Put personal belongings away. Don't carry unnecessary things with you in your vehicle. Number two, install car alarms, different devices like that. Anything that's remote or ran on Bluetooth can be tapped into and stolen. The only real way to prevent a car from being stolen is to break a circuit somewhere within the car, from the battery to the starter, battery to the ignition. I would always suggest breaking passage between starter and battery. The only way to do that is to manually put a switch in that'll break that circuit. That switch has to be manually flipped for it to start. If a car thief gets in a car and the car don't start, they're not going to spend time trying to figure out what's wrong with it. Yes, they may make entry, but they won't drive off in your vehicle. I think about a vehicle as a starting point to other thefts. If I see that you have a garage door opener on your car, say it's in a parking garage, I steal the car. Most of the time people get so complacent, they might open their mail inside their vehicle. Your address is on your mail. I'm gonna take your vehicle with your garage door opener to your house. You're giving me full access to your house, knowing I just took your car from an underground garage at a different location. A keyless car theft is based on plugging a computer program, pretty much where you would check your codes for your engine failure or things like that. Once you access the vehicle, then you can plug that device in and create a new key. People think that because you have a key fob that they're safe, but they're actually not. They're called relay thefts. What they're doing is using a repeat amplifier to capture the signal from the key fob to the car. So they're able to open the doors and start the vehicle. They're able to get it to wherever they need to go to then recreate and rechip a key chip for themselves. Catalytic converter theft is on the rise. Catalytic converters contain palladium and platinum, which is two high precious metals that are highly sought after at this point in time. Vehicles that are sitting higher are more prone to be targeted because they're easily accessed with a higher clearance. The bigger the catalytic converter, the more expensive the catalytic converter becomes. Catalytic converters are not something that I was ever involved in, for the fact that it was an easy $200, but I can get more for the whole vehicle than I can for a catalytic converter. I feel that auto theft has a big impact on the car market. For one, insurance rates are going up because of it. So again, it's a way to punish, in a sense, the vehicle owner. If Kias are going up in auto theft, why are they selling these vehicles and then turning around and allowing car insurance places to up their prices on the person that's buying them? After the court process, the proceedings, things like that, I got married, had kids. I coach a 10U, 8U softball. I have a full-time job. I'm a foreman. I go to work, come home with my family, I don't worry about where I'm going to sleep or where my next meal is going to come from. You know, so my life now is the American dream life.